the wild card line, you're on the air with Al Bielik. Good morning. Where are you calling from, please?
This is Charlie, liberal in California.
All right.
Let me just say that you've had some very extreme guests. The guy who thought there were pyramids on Mars, and the guy who wanted to build an island and name it after his own, make his own country up. But this guy really takes the cake. First of all, isn't it a fact that the reason that you've made up all these outlandish stories about 8 people being brought back in age to age 12 and time travel, isn't it a fact that you've made up these stories simply to make fast money for yourself?
All right, that's a good question. Thank you. That's it. What about the profit?
Not. I can say this much, that there is no money really to be made in going on the air and doing these things or going around in public lectures.
Wildcard line, you're on the air with Preston Nichols. Hello.
Yes, my name is Charlie. I had 2 quick questions for you, sir. The first thing is on time travel. Einstein was asked a question on time travel once, and he brought up a very interesting situation, saying that if you were to travel back in time and prevent yourself from being born, you would create an absurdity because you already exist. And since absurdities don't exist in science, doesn't that mean that that time travel as far as going backwards is impossible?
Not impossible, it's just you become part of history.
Mm-hmm.
And you really can't affect history because you become part of it.
Wouldn't it mean that there would have to be almost 2 different, is it possible that there might be 2 realities, parallel realities?
This is what's being suggested by quantum physicists today and a lot of other people. Parallel realities is what comes out of the whole metaphysical thing as well.
So let me understand this. There could be a reality which is just as valid, that I, Charlie, am actually, say, a host of a radio show, and say Art Bell is actually a liberal calling in. That could actually be a reality in another parallel existence.
There are some people that say what you think up in your mind is a parallel reality.
That's very interesting. One last point. I had been in a debate with a fellow, I think he was a Christian or something. Anyway, he was under the impression that the Earth was very young, about 6,000 years old. Clear this up. I mean, you're a scientist.
I don't know where he got that from.
Clear this up. Explain to the audience, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have any scientific knowledge. Could you quickly, I know this is a little bit off the subject, but could you quickly explain to people out in the audience who are listening why it's unlikely that the Earth is that young?
All right,
because
thanks, John.
There are many rocks that have been dated to be millions, billions of years old.
Well, that's a good answer, short, sweet answer. But on the wild card line, you're on the air. Hello.
That's Charlie, liberal in California.
Speaking of totally ridiculous, yes.
It's been a disgusting, despicable night all around, I have to say. First of all, for the, I really feel sorry for those Bible thumpers who continuously think that there's going to be some apocalypse and God is coming back. It's kind of like a guy waiting for a bus that you know is never going to come. And I don't know why they can't get it through their thick...
Well, Charlie, I think that's one you're never likely to ride on.
Well, I don't know why they can't get it through their thick skulls. The Earth, there has always been earthquakes. I know this surprised them. The Earth is in constant motion. It's always been a very violent place. Human beings have always been violent people. There will always be wars, and there will always be natural disasters. It doesn't mean anything. And as long as they sit on their duffs, like waiting for some fairy to come back and make everything better, only thing that's going to happen is everything's going to get worse. They have the worst mentality of any people that I can think of. And if human beings go down the drain, they'll have something to do with it. Let me say on this life after death garbage, the only way...
Did you see the program, by the way?
I had a friend that's, and basically what one of the doctors was saying is absolutely correct, and that is that there's been no human being has died and come back. That is a fallacy. the human brain can operate for at least 5 minutes.
Wait a minute, Charlie.
After.
Wait a minute. They are called near-death experiences. Now, how do you? Wait a minute. How do you decipher that sentence, Charlie?
Oh, you're not dead. It's a whole fallacy. People who said I died and came back, that's not true. Nobody has ever.
Charlie, near-death experiences.
Yeah, but that's not the point. What I'm saying is these people who say they've died and come back and had some experience. It's not the point. It can scientifically, I believe, be done. I believe there will come a time when we'll be able to bring people back from the dead.
Man, this really bothers you, doesn't it? This whole religion thing bothers you, and I think you protest a little too much.
Because I honestly believe that there will come a time. If people want to live forever, it probably could be done. The human brain cells are just like any other cells. If you cut your arm off and you freeze it, those cells can be brought back. The same thing could probably be done with human brain cells.
Would you Charlie, would you like to live forever?
No, the only ones that want to live forever again are the Christians. Amaze me, and it amazes me how these people are so afraid of death if they believe in religions of God so much.
Well, since you don't, I would think you'd be particularly interested in prolonging what you've got here. So you mean you wouldn't go for it, huh?
No. Well, I'm interested in the scientific part of it, and I do believe that eventually man will be able to bring people back from the dead, but it hasn't happened yet, but it's not going to happen through some religious phenomenon. Let me say lastly. On Korea, first of all, I think the administration is doing an excellent job in this particular area.
They are. What do you really like about their policy, Charlie?
Well, first of all, the Koreans are lying. Okay, they're bluffing. First of all, they're not going to start a war with Japan. But what Clinton realizes is that you cannot let these guys develop nuclear bombs unchecked.
So what's he going to do, Charlie?
Well, I think you've got to just tighten the strings on them, and they're going to back down. But according to your policy, what you would do is let them develop as many nuclear weapons as they want. It's true the United States could destroy them, but in an all-out attack by North Korea, if they were to develop, say, 30, 40 nuclear weapons, they could destroy Japan, which means, and our economy is tightly knitted.
Wait a minute. You just said that the threat against Japan was empty.
Well, it is, but it is now because they only have a handful of nuclear weapons.
All right, well, I've got to go. Thank you. Look, there's no way in my mind that you can justify having a war over something they're developing inside their own border. If they use it, it's a different story, but I am unwilling to have a war to go in and take it away from them. Who are we? The guardians of the world? That's a sovereign nation, albeit one we don't like, but it is a sovereign nation. There's a very careful line drawn. It's the DMZ. If they come across that, then we have a war. Until they come across that, or use the gun they're developing, in my mind, they have not broken the law, perhaps violated a treaty, but that is not a cause for sending young men and women from this country off to perhaps die in a terrible war. One, Charles, that you have admitted you would not attend. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
This is Charlie, liberal in California.
Yes.
I look at the Republican field and I get excited. Considering you guys think Bill Clinton's so weak, it is an absolutely pathetic field, And then you've got somebody like Newt Gingrich who has higher negatives, by the way, than Pat Buchanan.
You're absolutely correct.
And to imagine that he could...
however, Charles...
And in his own...
however, Charles, let me stop you. Newt Gingrich is a very intelligent, quick, good debater.
I'll tell you what
Do you agree with that?
I've never seen him in an actual debate. So I don't know about that. But I'll tell you this much: he has no problem saying what he thinks, which I think puts him in a lot of trouble politically. for example, when he said a few weeks
Probably
ago that he would have no problem cutting Medicare by 1/3.
Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the things that I admire about him is that he does say what he thinks.
Yeah, which will get you, which in a political election is something you don't want to do. I think that he would not match up well with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, never really say what you think of a political campaign. You must lie to win, right?
Well, I'm saying you have to do whatever you need to do to win.
The end justifies the election, right?
I mean, but I mean, you look at it. You got Dole, who's basically another George Bush, and it's an absolutely. I think you guys, Bill Clinton is going to need to make a mistake as it is in order for a Republican to win.
Well, Charles, I wouldn't rule that one out.
And also on this thing with the bombing, I don't know. I think there might be a slight chance that there's something that international, but I don't know. I just can't see. Maybe you can help me on this. How would the Iraqis make contact with the militias and help me with that? How would that work exactly?
All right, Charles. I'll try and help you with that. How would they do that? Well, let us imagine. How could that be done? Gosh, that would sure be impossible, wouldn't it? There would be no way that an Iraqi operative could get into America undetected. Oh, well, you know, the borders are like barriers of solid steel. So it's unimaginable that an Iraqi operative could make it across our borders. So I guess you're right, Charles. That certainly rules out the possibility there could have been any contact between an American and an Iraqi operative. Gosh, Charles, you make such profound arguments. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to congratulate Bill Clinton on making the correct decision on affirmative action. I know there's a lot of idiots out there who don't realize that we still do need affirmative action. And
maybe you can explain what he didn't seem to be able to, Charles, and that is, how do you say no quotas, no special privilege, but we're going to keep affirmative action? What is affirmative action, Charles?
Because affirmative action is basically goals. They're not specific numbers.
Well, so you mean there are goals that may not be enforced in any way whatsoever, correct?
Well, I think that's true to an extent, but I think here's what the problem is. There is still racism out there.
The problem, Charles, is that the president's position means
don't understand that concept. I know that's over your head.
Yeah.
I know that your basic concept of justice means just that, just us right-wing white people.
Really?
But the bottom line is this. If there is racism out there, then certainly people who are applying for jobs, we certainly should be able to open some doors so those people can get through.
How do we do that? Hello? How do we do that?
I think we do that by keeping the doors of education open that Republicans, extremist Republicans like yourself, want to close by cutting education. And I think we do that by certainly opening some doors to some federal contracts. Again.
Wait a minute. Oh, but wait a minute now. That's a quota, if not a preference.
I love it when you bring your voice up a few octaves. That means you're trying to make a weird conservative point.
Really? You mean it's an untruth? You mean that to give a preference is not to give a preference?
Look, let me tell you.
Congratulations. You're making every bit as much sense as the president did yesterday.
Let me tell you something. There are thousands and thousands of companies out there. Most of them are white. There are very few minority companies. Certainly, we can open some doors for some minority companies, and we can say, hey, we have room for them. I do not understand why you guys want absolutely everything in this country.
Charles, do you hear that music?
What about it?
I have a break coming up. Now, I might be tempted to let you debate somebody on this, because you're so obnoxiously
if you can
incorrect.
Find somebody intelligent enough, that might be kind of difficult.
Hold on. Stay right where you are. Any intelligent folk who would like to debate the man who, like the president, makes no sense at all on this, come now. We'll do it after the break. All right. I said it was coming. It was inevitable. Here it is. Sir Charles the Ridiculous is prepared to defend the president's position on affirmative action. it's really interesting. I just don't understand how you have it without having it. But if ever there was a president adept at having his cake and eating it too, it is Bill Clinton. So let's, I can't remember who's where. Who's on this? Oh, I can tell.
Charlie,
yeah, I
hello?
can tell. Actually, your breathing gives you away, Charlie.
I'm sorry.
You're a mouth breather. All right. Here's DJ in Phoenix. Subject affirmative action, and the president had to say about subject in general. DJ in Phoenix, meet Charles the
infamous.
Yeah. DJ, go right ahead.
Well, good evening to you, Charlie, and I'll make you a deal right up front. If you
DJ,
don't call me any names, I won't call you any names.
Well, he can't cut a deal like that.
The
DJ,
word is don't act like any names, and you won't have any problems.
DJ, speak up good and loud, or you're going to get buried by this guy.
Okay.
All right.
So why should we keep affirmative action, Charlie?
We should keep affirmative action because we still need affirmative action. We still need protection for minority groups. We still have racism in this country. And the problem is that we don't know where that racism is. And when you have minorities generally having to go to the white power structure and ask them for jobs, we need to make sure that those people have equal ground to compete. And affirmative action is a way of doing that.
Don't we have minority representation in the Congress? Don't we have minority representation in the Senate?
You can say we have some.
Don't we have minorities in the presidential cabinet?
Actually, that's not as true as it used to be, thanks to that Supreme Court ruling.
And this president isn't doing his job for the minorities, is he?
You asked the question. The problem is that when a black person is going to qualify, say, as a police officer, or a black company wants to get a certain contract, that company generally, or that black person generally has to go to a white person and ask that white person for a job. Now, if that
you a racist?
let me make my point. If that white person happens to dislike black people, have a cousin who happens to be a buddy of his that he wants to push up a couple notches, and guess what? That minority person is not going to get that position.
Well, guess
what,
Charlie? It happens to white people, too. It happens to Asian people. It happens to black people. It happens to Hispanic people.
And it's not.
I'm sure it's happened to you before. It's called nepotism, not racism.
Whatever the hell it's called, we have to protect certain people in that society.
Why do they deserve preferential treatment over anyone else? Aren't all men created equal?
This is what I don't understand about.
According to the Constitution of the United States of America, all men are created equal.
That's true.
Regardless of their color.
It's true.
Why does anyone deserve or need preferential treatment, Charlie?
There happens to be
Explain to me why
bigotry.
someone needs preferential treatment.
There happens to be something called bigotry that still exists in
the society. It has always been there, and it will always be there. Those people are wrong, whether they know it or not, and it doesn't make any difference.
Less than it was, say, 30 years ago. You agree with that?
I got news for you, Charlie. There is no law against racism.
There is a law against racism. You don't think there's a law against racism? I'll tell you what. You buy an apartment complex and write no spics or Spaniards allowed, and see how fast before you get your butt sued if you don't think there's a law against racism.
Discrimination, Charlie. That's not racism.
Well,
discrimination is a result of racism. Racism is a thought. It is an idea.
Oh, the idea. Once you start putting that idea in motion,
any laws against racism, you can only enforce laws against the result of racism.
People's opportunity. That's where I have a problem with it, and we have to do something about it. We cannot allow people, skilled people, not to get positions that they are generally qualified for.
Why do we have to do anything about it?
You know, this is what I love about you. This is what I love about you, right-wing knuckleheads. I love this.
No. Now you're going with me.
I love this part about when somebody else is being denied their rights, when somebody else can't get a job because of their color. All of a sudden you guys scream, "Oh, we shouldn't do anything about that," because basically your philosophy is this: as long as I'm protected, as long as my rights are protected, I don't give a damn about the person who might be a couple notches down on the economic ladder, or somebody else. I only care about my own fight.
Nobody promised everything would be hunky-dory and peachy keen.
No,
you have the right to pursue happiness. No one guaranteed happiness. They guaranteed you the right to pursue it. And if you don't make it, that's
let me tell you what our society did promise. It did promise that you're not going to be denied a job because of the color of your skin. It is wrong in this society, and we still need to do something about it. And you guys might want to turn your back on racism and let people be denied jobs because of the color of their skin, but we're not going to do it. We believe that everybody in society should have an opportunity, not just certain people.
Then what about the people that do not get those jobs because of the color of their skin that happens to be opposite of that which is favored by affirmative action? What about those people's rights, Charlie?
Why don't you
want to champion rights, champion their rights too. All men are created equal.
Why don't you name one segment in American society where the minorities outnumber the white people in that segment, and I'd be glad to address it. If you look at
someone happens to be less than 50% does not qualify them for a minority status.
If you look at every single law enforcement agency, and I've done this in Southern California,
you will find a person of color in every single one.
The majority of people at the power structure, and most of the supervisors are white men. I took a fireman's test about 4 years ago. I didn't even talk to I wasn't interviewed by a black person. I didn't see a black person.
Maybe you were there on the wrong day, Charlie. Did you go back and find out if there was anyone in that position that happened to be out sick that day?
I'm just dealing with
something. Did you even bother to find out?
I'm just dealing with something that you conservatives don't know a damn thing about.
What, hypotheticalism?
The reality is this. White people generally control this society, which is fine. There's more white people than black people.
It's fine.
They should control the society.
Now, all of a sudden, it's fine, is it?
Having said that, a black person who is going out to get a job should not be in fear that he's not going to get that job because of the color of his skin.
And why should a white person go out and be in fear that they are not going to get that job because of the color of their skin?
Let me tell you
I don't care what the color of someone's skin is. That's not the issue.
That's good for you. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in society that do.
Charlie? You have no idea what color my skin is.
I don't give a damn what color your skin is, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people in society that do. That's what the problem is. As soon as we get rid of racism in society, we won't need to protect people on that level.
You will never get rid of racism, Charlie, because racism is an idea.
Well, then
it is a thought process. All you can do is try to educate people.
There are a lot of people.
And the only thing that you are doing is digging your own affirmative action grave because you are really angering those racists out there that really believe in their hardcore heart.
This is what I don't like about you conservatives. You're really angering those racists out there. I don't give a damn if I anger some damn racist out there. You hear me, racists out there? I could care less if you're angry at me. If you deny a person a job because of the color of your skin, you are wrong. And we're not going to sit down and let you do that.
As much as I hate to admit that I agree with you, Charlie, on that particular point, I do agree with you. However, under the eyes of the law, if you break the law, you go to jail. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what income level you have. It doesn't matter what your national origin is. It doesn't even matter what language you speak. You go to jail. That is equal justice.
That's
sweet and dandy. It's the same thing it's supposed to be the same thing in the workplace.
It should be the same thing.
And why is that not so?
The problem in the workplace is that what happens is that when you have certain people who decide who gets those jobs, if we don't say that some people, because of the color of their skin, there should be some doors open to them, they're going to say, hey, you know what? Maybe my Uncle Charlie should get that contract. He really needs it. And hold it. You know something? I was living in the city and 2 black people mugged me the other day, so those black people can't be trusted, so maybe they shouldn't get a job. Now, you know good and well that because I'm white and I know that white people talk like that in private, don't they?
Well, that certainly is a racist thing for you to say, Charlie.
I know that white people, I happen to be white, my uncle says stuff like that. And I certainly, if he had to decide between a black person getting a contract and a white person, he's going to pick a white person.
Well, that's his prerogative, isn't it? He's the one hiring that person for his business, isn't he?
Not if it's a federal contract.
Well, then you have to play by a different set of rules, don't you?
Exactly, and that's what Bill Clinton is talking about.
Laws, yes, you do.
And the different set of rules in that federal contract.
All right. I'm getting into the middle of this now. Time's up. It's thank you both very much. That was a good, spirited debate subject of worth giving it a little bit of time. So I did. And you're welcome to comment on it, and we'll be back with more. Hi, Wildcard Line, you're on the air.
Charlie, liberal in California. 2 points. The first being is that, what happened to this lady on the bridge, certainly if people were laughing at her and egging these guys on, that's one thing. But, I've listened to several talk shows, and there have been people calling in saying they would have intervened. There's a line between being a hero and being a stupid idiot. Anybody that would confront two armed guys, one weighing 300 pounds with a crowbar, is an idiot. And so
But see, that's not the argument. Only an idiot would try to turn that into the argument. The question was not whether or not people were intervening or should have intervened or should have taken the chance to intervene. The question and the comment and the social problem is people cheering it on, even chanting for her to jump.
Well, I understand the problem there. But as far as intervening...
You understand the problem there? Well, okay, that is a problem. So what is your comment on that?
Well, we've had that problem for... let me tell you something. This is my second comment. I honestly think that people who think society's going downhill, yeah, there's problems, but these people who say there's a quickening...
Yeah? They're all wet, huh?
Well, let's put it this way. Society is not in any... There are two things that could take society out. A full-scale nuclear war and a comet or a meteorite or something like that. Both those things are extremely unlikely. As far as environmental problems, yeah, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be a serious problem into the next century. But there's nothing imminent that could take human beings out. Human society is going to be around for the next 100 years, probably. Now, whether society deteriorates and we live in a Mad Max type of society, that's possible.
You said 100 years. That's not very long.
Well, it's not very long. But people that say human existence is on the brink of being gone, I think they're out of line in saying that. I think human beings are going to be around for a while.
Well, maybe they will, but maybe if they are, it will turn into your Mad Max scenario.
Well, yeah, it could go in that direction, but it could go in another direction. Who knows? But I know.
Is a person reasonably able to look at current events and discern a trend?
Well, yeah, you can discern the trend that society is deteriorating, but you can't discern this trend. Which I think when you talk about the quickening, I think you're talking about, and excuse me if I'm wrong, I think you're talking about human extinction. And I don't think that is something that's imminent. It's something that's...
No, I'm not. Actually, you're wrong. I'm not talking about... As a matter of fact, I'm not ascribing, Charlie, and I really mean this, I'm not ascribing anything to it. I'm not saying it's biblical. I'm not saying it's religious. I'm not saying it's Armageddon. I'm not saying anything. I'm simply giving you an observation from having done this talk show for as long as I've done it. And I think it is an accurate observation.
Well, I think it's an observation, but I think the clarity there, because I think most of the people who call into your talk show and talk about the end of the earth, they're talking about human extinction. They're not talking about society deteriorating. They're talking about humans being gone. And I think those people who say that are wrong. Now, as far as there being violence in the streets, riots, disorder, in a totally different society in a few years, yeah, it's possible, but... I think it could go either way right now. I think we're right on the brink of going either way, and I think that's going to depend on a lot of factors.
If it did turn into a Mad Max kind of world, Charlie, what would you do?
What would I do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It depends on it. Let's put it this way. If it came down to either protecting civilization or protecting myself, I'm going to protect myself. And you have a lot of people call. If there's some type of imminent danger, you'll have people calling in saying how civilized they'd be. Let me tell you something.
Would you use that service revolver? I mean, you're always calling for gun control, and you tell me you carry a gun, right?
Yes.
Part of your job. So would you use that?
Yeah, and actually, if society completely deteriorated, I'd have no problem with everybody having weapons. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I mean, not unfortunately, but that hasn't happened yet. So I don't think there's no need to. But no, I'd have no problem with everybody carrying a weapon if we lived in a Mad Max society.
But according to your world, you're trying to get the guns away from people. So if it did turn into that, they wouldn't have guns.
Yeah, but I think
people like you would be the Mad Maxes.
Yeah, that's something to think about, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Good morning. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
It's Charlie, liberal in California. First of all, you had some religious guy calling. You know something? Here's what religious people do not understand. They try to combine religion and science, and they're two completely different topics.
How do you know? How do you know that?
Because religion teaches one, or attempts to teach one, how to live one's life. Science deals with investigating the physical world. They're two totally different things.
No, they're not.
It's like I'll give you an example. The guy who wrote Genesis, when he said the Earth and the universe was created in 6 days, could not have possibly have known that the sun is a second-generation star, and that the universe probably existed 10 billion years before the sun did.
Well, how do we know what a day meant to God?
Well, you can rationalize that all you want. I remember arguing with one guy. He was talking about how this guy, I guess, fit all the animals of the earth on an ark, even though I explained to him that it would be physically impossible, first of all, to collect all the animals and put them on the ark. And if you go to the San Diego Zoo, for example, you look at all those animals, they don't even represent a small percentage of the animals on the planet. And he simply said, well, God shrunk them down to size. I said, well, you'd have to go all over the earth to collect all these animals. He said, no, God made them all come to one location.
Little bitty elephants, little bitty giraffes, and little bitty dinosaurs.
You could use that argument for anything. But the thing is, rather than do that, why not just separate the two? Why combine the two? That's what religious people do. That's wrong. It's like these people calling in saying, oh, well...
Because the two are not always mutually exclusive, Charles. They're simply not. A lot of science supports what religion has said, and vice versa.
The people who wrote the Bible had very limited knowledge. Even if they were scientists back then, you're talking about 2,000 years ago. There's things that they simply did not understand. Doesn't mean the Bible is bad literature. Doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It does mean that there were things that these guys simply could not have known. And there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, if you investigate the real world, if you really want to find out who God is, then you don't put blinders on and say, oh, okay, the earth is 6,000 years old, human beings have been here, we're the first created animals. You don't do that. If you really want to know who God is, you look at the facts, and you direct yourself toward the facts. And actually, if you do that, you actually see a rather awesome God, if you believe in God. You see a planet that's almost 5 billion years old. You see a God that's capable of creating an entire species, letting it rule the planet for 143 million years, and getting rid of that species and putting mammals on the earth. I think that's rather impressive.
I do too, Charlie, and if you really feel that way about it, then I suggest you begin showing him more reverence. Wildcard line, you are on the air. Good morning.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Did you listen to that, Charlie?
Yeah, well...
Yes or no?
Huh?
Did you listen to the interview?
Parts of it. It's a bunch of crap. You know,
it is. A group of international forensic experts saying it's a forged letter is a bunch of crap.
Let me tell you something.
Do tell me something.
You guys have been trying to get Clinton for so long that you're in this daydream right now. I think all you extremists are basically suffering from mass mental illness. I mean, first of all, Bill Clinton had nothing to do with killing his childhood friend. Anybody who believes that is incredibly stupid.
That is not what that is not what anybody has said.
Well, I mean, I know you guys
now look,
aren't
Charlie.
very good at reading.
Damn it, Charlie! Stop for a minute. Just play like you're an intellectual for a second, and talk to me about ignoring for political purposes, which you are obviously prepared to do, the report of a group of international forensic experts in handwriting who declare this note a forgery. Are you telling me, Charlie? No, let me tell you something, buddy. Are you saying this should not be followed up on?
I'm telling you, you guys can follow up on it as much as you want if that makes you happy. But you can find experts, as many experts as you want. I can go out right now. If I had enough money on me, I could go out right now and find 20 experts that say these guys are out of their mind. This is definitely his handwriting. Obviously, you weren't listening to the O.J. trial.
Forget the O.J. trial.
If you were, you'd know that people can pay. You can either pay for experts, but experts are either bought or people will come out and they'll say things just to get attention for themselves, especially psychological experts.
Boy, are you reaching. Boy, are you reaching.
Experts come basically a dime a dozen.
Yeah,
but
right.
Again, you guys have this big type dream that you're going to get Bill Clinton. Actually, that's the only way you guys can beat him.
You really do think that's what this is, don't you?
Well, you guys can't campaign him, and you know the only way that you can win the election. Well, now you got Colin Powell, who's basically a moderate Democrat, if you ask me. But that's you guys can't beat Bill Clinton.
By the way, since obviously you and I are going nowhere but against the wall on this one, let me ask you that question. Given the probability of a Dole, Clinton, Powell race, how would you vote?
Well, I told you before I'd have a very difficult. I couldn't vote against Bill Clinton, and but I would have a very, very difficult time opposing Colin Powell. Simply because of his race, I'd have a very difficult time opposing him.
That's incredible. All right, thank you. We'll end it right there. I would have a forget the issues, right? Forget the man, forget the character, forget everything else. What did he just say, Mr. Liberal Charlie? He said, I would have a hard time ignoring or not voting for Colin Powell because of his race. If that isn't the most racist damn thing I've ever heard in my whole life, I would have a hard time ignoring him because of his race. Not one word about his politics, but just because of the color of his skin. Oh, my God, is that ever racist? Charles. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
This is Charlie, liberal in California.
Of course.
First of all, 2 points, quickly last. Let me say first of all that Newt's really getting it, isn't he?
Yes.
This is what the extremists deserve. They deserve what's happening to Newt Gingrich. They're the ones that put him there, and this is what's happening to him.
Did you think Jim Wright deserved everything that occurred to him?
Well, the thing about Jim Wright is that he wasn't an extremist. He was a moderate Democrat. Well, you have, and the Republicans.
Yeah, Charlie, but that's like saying one person's patriot is another person's terrorist. Come on.
I don't care. You know what? I think the Democrats are wrong. I think they're wrong to attack Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich can keep his position. Let him stay the heck where he is. And as far as I'm concerned, it's like the Democrats having Jesse Jackson as Speaker of the House. I mean, that's a.
In other words, you would feel a real loss if they should actually get Gingrich.
Exactly. Because you know what's going to happen in 1996?
What?
The Republicans will be framed as being extremists. That's what the Democrats are doing right now.
Keyword is framed. You may be exactly right. I mean, the president is in the process of doing that, Charlie, and with some degree of success.
And why do you think he's having this success? I think because every single political attack sometimes has a tinge of truth to it.
Well,
and I certainly think
Charles, he just vetoed the budget. I think the president is having success because the American people say they want a balanced budget. They say they want to pay down the debt, but when it really comes down to it, they really don't. And Clinton serves up that kind of. Oh, yes.
Well, I think it's because the American people understand that they want a balanced budget, but they care about their environment, they care about the elderly people, whereas the Republicans obviously don't. That's the difference. Let me say lastly on this quickening thing. Yeah. You know something? I had one of my friends was listening to your show, and he was very upset with what you had to say about the quickening. He tends to think that you believe and correct me if I'm wrong, but you believe that the world or the United States is headed towards some irresistible, perilous doom that they cannot stop. Is that correct?
I think there is going to be a change. Do not translate that to mean I think it's going to be the end of the world. I haven't said that.
But you think it's going to be some calamity?
There's going to be a big change.
There's a coming calamity.
I believe
that we cannot avoid.
I believe that. Yes.
That's where I.
Yes. Yes. To answer your question,
I think look. We're going into the next century. You're absolutely. You know something. You have some good points. You're absolutely correct. We face problems that are unparalleled for any other. You look at. There's going to be 3 million people in prison in the next 20 years, and certainly there's untold social problems in this country. But I don't necessarily think that means that we're headed towards some calamity that cannot be avoided. It's there, but it can be avoided.
All right.
So I think you're a doomsayer.
Okay. Thank you. So be it. Wildcard line. You're on the air with Ma Bell. Hi.
Yeah, Art, no offense, this is your mother?
No, absolutely is, yes. This is Charlie the Terrible.
Hi, Charlie.
Yeah, well, your son's a moron, but here's the thing I don't understand. What kind of an egomaniac, knuckle dragger would bring his, mother on a radio talk show? I mean, but anyway, let me ask you a question here.
Sure.
I honestly believe that, children who grow up and get conservative views, really that their parents have been rather mean to them, and that's their psychological way of taking it out on the rest of society, and that's why they're conservative.
In other words, meanness. Yeah. In other words, meanness translates.
When did he first start showing signs of being conservative?
Oh, that's a good question, actually, from a moron.
I really think he could answer that better. I haven't seen as much of him since he's been grown up as I would like to.
This is actually a reunion of what? About 10 or 12 years, something like that.
And I'm going to meet my grandson tomorrow for the first. I haven't seen him since he was just probably about 4 years old.
So, there you are. When did I begin to show signs of being conservative? Well, most of my adult life, really. Always been that way.
Are you the Charlie from the book?
No, he's gone. Yeah, he is the Charlie from the book, right? I'm checking my knuckles now, and there's no blood there, so they can't have been dragging too much wet. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
It's Charlie, liberal in California. I never thought I'd be grateful to the nuts and those militias, but tonight I must say I'm rather grateful to the nuts and the militias.
Actually, I think you're expressing your gratitude to Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America.
I think they've done a great job for their country. Let me tell you one thing. Even though Pat Buchanan would basically destroy the Republican Party, I have to say that I consider myself to be an American first, and I think his getting the nomination would hurt the country, and that's
why? How?
Oh, I think he'd be way too divisive. Way too divisive, even getting the nomination. So
was Ronald Reagan way too divisive for you?
Oh, comparing Ronald Reagan.
No. I just asked, was Ronald Reagan too divisive for you?
No, Ronald Reagan, I think, was I'd put him in as being a conservative Republican, maybe very conservative, but nowhere near the extreme. But here's the thing: you've got all these nuts calling in saying, "Well, the liberals are going to go after Pat Buchanan," and actually. I just got through watching TV, and you know who the people who are going after Pat Buchanan are?
Who?
You look at these old news shows. You have Newt Gingrich, who basically said Pat Buchanan's no conservative; he's an extremist. You have Bennett, who I know is a conservative.
Yes.
If Bennett's not a conservative, there's no such thing as a conservative. And Bennett said his immigration policies are basically fascist. And that's Bennett. And then you've got the other Republicans, such as Alexander, saying the guy's too extreme. Dole saying the guy's too extreme.
I know.
And I think it comes down to this: if your enemies call you ugly, you might not be ugly. But when your own family starts calling you ugly, there's a chance that you're actually ugly. And I think these people these Republicans need to start looking at some reality here. If conservatives are saying this guy's too extreme, then there maybe there's something to that. And I think the argument holds some water there.
All right, Charlie. Thank you. My own personal view is that there are a number of things, as you know, that I disagree with Pat Buchanan on. The one particular area that I agree with him is on immigration. Whether it takes a wall, electronics, human beings, border guards like the one who was just on the air, Charlie, you've got to recall, works for the Border Patrol. You've got to wonder when Charlie's out on patrol and sees the running hordes that are coming into this country by the millions, how his attitude transfers into the enforcement of his sworn duty. And you've got to wonder whether it does. There's a little side note there for you to think about. West, make that the wild card line. You're on the air.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Hello there.
Well, again, the Republicans have watered down this anti-terrorist bill, and I think it shows you once more how they are, how the thumb of the gun nuts are pressing sharply against the top of these people's heads. I think it's very, very unfortunate.
You must be referring to the water and the tide of individual freedom versus allowing lots of government intrusion into private lives.
Oh, that's a bunch of garbage. You tell me.
Listen to me. Now listen. I've got a break. If you want to hold, you can hold.
Okay.
Okay. I've got a Charlie what if here. He'll enjoy this. Just in case Charles is still here, let's check and see. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Somebody's sending this from Springfield, Illinois, Charlie, and they want to know, what if Charlie liberal was Charlie conservative? In other words, do you think he could be equally annoying on our side as on the wrong side?
Well, let me tell you something. I think there is a Charlie conservative. His name is Rush Limbaugh, and yes, he is extremely annoying, and he makes me sick.
Do you consider yourself the anti-Rush?
I think so. I think in a way that's absolutely correct. And I think unfortunately, and here's how I'm different from most liberals. I think liberals unfortunately are the Michael Dukakis, George McGovern type who will lay back and get pounded in the face by Republicans and then say, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" Now, I don't think Republicans only understand one thing. They only understand being nasty and mean, and that's where Bill Clinton differs. He's on
Charlie,
the left, but Bill Clinton understands what.
I thought you were going to say political power only grows from the barrel of a gun.
In a way, they only understand meanness. Yeah. Bill Clinton's the first person on the left in about 30 years to understand that concept, and it's too bad that a lot of liberals don't understand that you have to answer meanness with meanness. Let me say on these gun wackos out there who want to water this anti-terrorist thing down. It just goes to show you the Republicans are being pushed around and who they bow down to and kiss the feet of. But again, how in the hell can a person be? In one hand you have to register your car, and they're saying that bombs don't have to be registered. What kind of garbage is that? I think it shows you how extremist these people actually are.
How do you register a bomb?
Well, the Clinton administration was thinking of putting a specific chemical, different chemicals in bombs that would indicate where they came from once they exploded, which I happen to agree with.
Well, fine, but I mean, how do you actually register a bomb beyond that? I mean, do you carry this big bomb down into the police station and say, "Hi there, I'm here to register my bomb"? I don't recommend it.
No, but where they could find out where the bomb was bought at and who bought them, and then all you have to do is find out who. Look at the records.
Come on, Charlie.
But here's the thing.
Down to your local bomb store. Come on.
Here's the thing. Republicans do, and I work in the intelligence field, and I understand that in 10, 15 years from now, you're not going to be talking about fertilizer. You're going to be talking about atomic bombs.
I know.
Small enough to put into briefcases.
Right. Well, we'll put in Mr. Clinton's registration program. Thank you very much. It'll take care of that. There you go again. I mean, hi, I'd like to register this bomb. Yes, it's a small nuke, about a kiloton. I'd like to register it. And then you get a little card you can carry around in your wallet. You have a registered atomic bomb. That'd be good. Brilliant. A wild card line, you're on the air. Hello.
Charlie, liberal in California. First of all, the guy who made the point that someone breaking the laws the way these individuals did would be punished a lot worse than in Mexico. Well, he's absolutely right in that point. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes this country great, is the fact that people are treated better in this country. The fact that we do look at justice in this country.
You know, it really rankles me. I think lately you've been calling me up and agreeing with me just to rankle me, haven't you?
No, I think I think that you and I tend to disagree more on not really on the social end of it.
All right, look, hold on, Charlie. We got a break. We'll be right back to you. All right, Charles, you're back on.
Yeah, just saying, don't panic your little head just because we've agreed a couple of weeks. Just keep in mind, I think you're an extreme conservative when it comes to economic issues. I consider you to be on social issues to be a moderate conservative, and sometimes moderates and liberals tend to intertwine every once in a while. It doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while. But you're still an extremist right-winger.
Thank you.
I just say that, but our principles and our laws are superior, and they should not ever be compromised. Because the thing is, once you start compromising our laws, it's like unraveling a thread. And once you start unraveling that thread, who knows where it's going to stop? And unfortunately, I think a lot of people look at these guys, yeah, they were Mexicans, yeah, they were breaking the law, but you have to look at it this way, too. If you know something, these guys in Montana, they're pointing guns at peace officers. They're disrespecting the law. And if you say that if these people should be beaten because they're disrespecting the law, then we should go in there and do what we got to do to these Montana guys because they're doing the same thing. Because you have to even things out. To me, that's absolutely right. If you're going to say the other one's right, if they're both wrong, then they're both wrong. But let's not start unraveling our laws and saying, well, maybe we should be more like those guys in Mexico.
Look, Charles, I wouldn't be any more in favor of the FBI or anybody else who would catch one of the suspects in Montana and beat the hell out of them.
Exactly. And I think we should maintain that thing. Let me say lastly that a lot of people, and I got some bad news for you, some really bad news for a lot of your listeners, and that is that there is nothing that we can do to stop this immigration problem. As long as there's a better life on this side of the border, unless we go to what Pat Buchanan says, and that's building large walls, putting army, military, and arming them and letting them shoot people coming over. Unless we go to that extreme, which we won't do because it's unconstitutional, we're always going to have this problem. And
it's not unconstitutional to put a wall there.
It is. Well, I don't know if a wall would actually stop it, but I don't see a wall. Mexican Americans are just too powerful politically. It's not going to happen. There's never going to be a wall there. This problem is never going to go away, and it's only going to get worse. We're beefing up the Border Patrol. That's not going to help.
Well, that's where you are shown to be an extreme liberal.
Well, I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm telling you what I believe is going to happen. What's going to happen is there's a huge dam, we have our finger in the dike, and it's cracking, and there's not a damn thing that we can do about it. And economically speaking, you look at the fact that Japan's buying up land all over the United States, the world is getting smaller, barriers are breaking down. There's a lot of bad side to that. There's no question about that. But that is what's happening, and there's nothing that we can do about it.
Oh, yes, there is. Thank you for the call, but we have our finger in the dike. Well, our finger right now looks about like my thumb, my hand, after being ravaged by being turned backwards and a feral cat. My hand probably looks like the metaphorical thumb in the dike. And we can build a wall. We have every right constitutionally to build a wall and to control access to who comes and who goes. And by the way, what they bring with them. And it's my understanding you work for the Customs Department. I would think you'd be in favor of that. I wonder what you do at work, working for Customs, Charles. When you open a bag and you see several sacks of cocaine, do you just say, well, there's nothing we can do, zip it back up, hand it to them, let them go on? Is that what you do? There's nothing we can do? It's a pretty defeatist attitude for somebody in Customs. Wildcard line, you are on the air. Hi.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Well, then again, there are some heads that would look all right on the wall. Yes, Charles.
First of all, I hate hunters. I think they're animals, vicious Neanderthals, very, very backward people.
Bad
Someone who could get enjoyment out of shooting an innocent creature, I think, is absolutely disgusting, perverse. Anyway, I had a personal question for you. We were talking about this virus, that infected the primates.
There are now 3 more that have come down with it, and they are saying they may have to eliminate the entire population.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If there were a virus that struck in the United States that we could, judge down to a certain area, a certain geographic area, would you be in favor of cutting those people off, installing the military, and perhaps, say, eliminating this group of people in order to keep the virus from spreading, or would you consider that to be communistic, or what would be your feelings on dealing with that?
Yeah, you're describing the scenario in outbreak.
Exactly. What are your feelings?
It would depend on what the scientists were telling me, Charles, but the bottom line, of course, would be if there was a near sure result that the general population would be infected, that 90% would die, then you would be weighing the rights of the many versus the rights of the few, and I think that gives you your answer, but it would be very hard, Charles.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that to an extent, and I think, unfortunately, there are people out there who do not understand that people in the government sometimes, including the president on down, sometimes have to make decisions between two evils. One being terribly evil, the other one being not as evil. And sometimes you have to make that decision. It's not a good decision.
Well, sometimes, Charles, people in the government view as evil things that you, I, for example, might not.
Exactly, and sometimes they make mistakes like that. But I don't think they're made out of maliciousness. I think that sometimes people with good intentions make terrible mistakes. But this is a situation.
Do you think? They asked Janet Reno this the other day on Meet the Press on Sunday. If you could go back and do it again, would you do it differently? Let me ask you that about Waco. I've heard you spout off on Waco a million times, but if you could go back and act in a different way from the government's point of view, would you?
You want to know something? The only mistake the government made, in my opinion, was using the military vehicles to take down the building. And I think they should have done better investigative type work and maybe try to get him outside. But once those people took over that building, my belief is that they waited 50-something days, which is showing extreme patience. So I don't know. I think that you wait long as long as you can, but then you have to take some type of action. I think 50-something days is very, very long to wait. So my analysis of it is that the military vehicles were wrong, but I can't blame the government. I don't think they were completely wrong in this.
Do you think that there will be?
I think they were very patient.
Do you think, just your best guess, do you think there'll be repercussions this April 19th, this Friday?
Yes, and I think some people are going to blame. I don't think you'll have anything as big as what happened in Oklahoma, but I think you'll have some small incidents, and I think it's terrible how people blame that on the government. I'll tell you this though: if you have another Oklahoma, you are going to have a semi-civil war in this country.
I know.
And who you have to blame it on?
Yeah,
blame it on the extremists because it's not the government's fault.
All right, I agree with that last part. Another Oklahoma-sized incident, God help us, would bring about. He said a semi-civil war. I don't know what it would bring. It would bring something awful. It would bring something awful. Is it possible? Yes. Oh yeah. Is it probable? I don't know that I'd go that far. Possible? Definitely. It's got to stop. The collision that I've been warning and talking about for so long is inevitable if we don't change our direction. I just see it coming, and I've described it as two freight trains coming at each other with unstoppable motion and inertia. And I've not yet seen anything that's going to get in the way or prevent the collision if we continue on this course. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Speaking of 300-mile-an-hour destructive winds.
Yeah, right. Let me just say that I wanted to thank that black college for keeping this despicable, the black Supreme Court justice, what's-his-face, from speaking at one of their forums.
What's his face? We're talking about a Supreme Court justice of the United States.
Well, he's a lowlife. Anyway, but I think what black people understand in this country is that just because you're a Supreme Court justice and just because you're black, you do not stand up for the principles that black people stand up for, then you shouldn't speak at any of their functions. And I think that's what those black individuals were saying. They understand that black people have advanced to the middle class stage that they are, not because of conservatism, but because of liberalism, because liberalism has opened doors for them.
Boy, are you wrong. Boy, is it the other way around.
You're out of your mind.
Boy, are blacks across America beginning to realize what total damn frauds liberals are.
No, I think what's happening is you look at the black middle class, the amount of doctors, the amount of lawyers that are in the black middle class right now. As a matter of fact, you had Rush Limbaugh making the argument for liberalism. He didn't even know he was doing it when he said that the reason that blacks aren't joining the military in the numbers that they used to is because the black middle class is expanding at an astounding rate.
Well, it is, but no thanks to liberalism.
No, that's exactly thanks to liberalism. Because when you look at the professions that blacks have broken into in the last 30 years, especially the medical profession,
I wouldn't argue that.
Police officers, those are due to affirmative action, but they're also due to the fact that money has been thrown into the college sector where people can get loans.
Charlie, in your mind, Charlie, liberalism is compassion, conservatism is racism, right?
Well, I would say conservatism is intolerance, and intolerance and racism are very, very closely related. Unfortunately, people on that intolerant realm don't realize that they're dipping into the racist mold, but unfortunately that does happen.
All right, thanks. Well, some do it intentionally in the extremes, Charles. A good example of that would be what's so-called Christian identity movement. That one still blows my mind, too. As a matter of fact, if anything's going to bring on 300-mile-an-hour winds, it's probably that kind of crap. Christian identity that supposedly combines white supremacist ideals with Christian ideals. That's still getting to me. That's the one that bring on the 300-mile-an-hour winds. White supremacy and Christian values. God. Wild Card Line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Charlie, liberal in California.
Yes.
Too bad about that fire in Alaska. We got the same kind of type of problems here. Let me say, you know something. You got a lot of people comparing Bill Clinton with Ronald Reagan, saying how great Ronald Reagan is. I have to say the difference between Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton is that Bill Clinton is the most fiscally responsible president we've ever had, and Ronald Reagan is the most irresponsible president on a fiscal level that we've ever had.
Don't you ever get tired of this?
You know something? This is what I don't like. You conservatives in the 1980s built up this big, giant lie. Unfortunately, there are a lot of young people out there who don't understand that, and a lot of people are falling for that. Truth is, Ronald Reagan spent a great deal of money for 6 years of economic growth that the young people are going to have to pay for generations to come.
Truth is, he built up our military force to the point that the other side gave up, Charlie.
That's a bunch of baloney. The other side,
it is not baloney.
The other side was going to go out probably. Maybe he quickened it by maybe 2 or 3 years at most, and that's according to military experts who commented on that situation. And he's gotten credit for that he doesn't deserve. But what had
we continued to go in the other direction. Wait a minute now. Had we continued to go in the other direction, had the Carter plan for disassembly of the CIA and military continued, well, then I'm sure the other side, instead of deciding to crumble, would have decided to fight.
They did not decide to crumble.
Yes, they
I'm
did.
in the intelligence field, and I can tell you that probably at least 12 years before the Soviet Union went down, you had the CIA saying that they had a few years left, and that was it. Whether we spent money on the military or not,
I had no idea
that's just one of the big.
I had no idea that customs people were privy to that kind of international intelligence.
We're privy to a lot, but let me say the bottom line is this: Ronald Reagan is responsible for these deficits that we have now because he was absolutely irresponsible. His own people told him, if you do this, you're going to cause major, major deficits. And he told his own people to get lost. Bob Dole, who's running for the Republican nomination, fought him on it. And
Charlie, right now, the big debate, which is a non-debate about Medicare, is a bunch of absolute crap on both sides. I said on both sides. The real truth is Medicare is not going to survive, period, and both sides are afraid to say it.
Well, the truth is that we need Medicare. The Republican, and I think the elderly people who are listening to this program should keep one thing in mind. When you press that lever for Bill Clinton or Bob Dole, think, is a Republican, and you know the record of Republicans, are they really interested in saving Medicare? Are the Democrats, the liberals, are they interested in saving Medicare? Your future depends on it, and I think they're going to make the right decision and vote for the Democrats.
All right, goodbye. That's a total load. It's a total load. Both sides know damn well privately that Medicare cannot be saved. So you're talking about an extension of, or a difference of, a couple of, or even a few years, one way or the other. But what both sides are not telling you is Medicare ultimately, absolutely, positively, cannot and will not be saved. But nobody's going to talk about that. So if you want to listen to this partisan, narrow-minded, rhetorical baloney, go right ahead. But I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you that both sides aren't discussing the real problem with Medicare. It's hardly even worth talking about, frankly. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi.
It's Charlie, liberal in California.
Yay.
Let me tell you something. A, I don't think you're the Antichrist. I want you to know that right off the bat. And B, let me tell all these alien nuts out there, let me just tell you something. If I were an alien, in all seriousness, if I were an alien, the Earth is the last place I'd want to settle. It's you've got some semi-highly developed primate dominating a middle-aged star that lacks a lot of the natural minerals that it had just a few million years ago. It's not a good planet.
But it may be that compared to other planets, we are still mineral-rich, particularly deep down.
We're mineral rich, but why would you want to deal with a planet that has a somewhat advanced technology and nuclear weapons? Even though they could probably easily defeat us, we could ruin the planet.
Charlie,
why would you want to deal with that when you could deal with a relatively new star?
Charlie, we eat cows, right?
That's true.
So why do you think that an alien would not necessarily think of us as a cow?
Actually, you have a reasonable point there. I know a lot of the religious people might not like that, but what you're saying in that sense is true, and that humans may not, even though we are the highest life form on the planet right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're a very high life form.
To a fully evolved life form, we might be as the ants are to us.
That's true. That's true. I wouldn't argue that point. Let me say, as far as poor Bob Dole is concerned, isn't it just too bad that Colin Powell has seen the light, that Colin Powell realizes that the only place for him to go is the Democratic Party. That
that's hogwash. He already said he'd vote for Bob Dole. Where are you coming from?
No, all I'm saying is that, well, he has to vote for Bob Dole. I mean, he's already said that he's not going to campaign with this guy, and he's not going to have any big speech at the Republican National Convention. Let's face it here. He supports affirmative action, and he supports abortion rights. And if he comes to the Democratic Party, we will welcome him and all Republicans who support those things with open arms.
Look, whatever Colin Powell is, he's smart enough not to go to your party.
Well, I think Colin Powell will wake up and see the light, as many moderates and Republicans have.
What the hell are you talking about? It has been conversion after conversion after conversion. It's been from the Democrats to the Republicans. Where have you been?
Well, first of all, you're talking about politicians. I'm not talking about politics, because politicians are always rolling around in the mud trying to see it.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You're talking about Clinton. You're talking about Dole. You're talking about Powell, and you say you're not talking about politicians?
I'm talking about.
Have you truly lost what little mind you have?
Powell, fortunately, is not a quote-unquote politician. I think that's what makes him popular. But I'm talking about people like Powell who have changed, who have taken a look at this Republican Party led by Newt Gingrich and have said, you know what, we are going to switch to the Democrats and move to the left, because we realize that they support the working class Americans, that they support this basically support the government and the country, and that the Republicans basically don't. That they're a bunch
Charlie,
of
there's been so damn much attrition with the Democrats lately. You're lucky you've got even a minimal vote you can muster in the House anymore.
Well, there's the Republicans right now are no longer concerned about whether they're going to win the presidency or not. They're worried about whether they're going to keep control of Congress.
Well,
That's the bottom line.
You are right about that. Thanks, Charles. He's right about that. The campaign right now is going so poorly. I mean, I couldn't script it to go any more poorly for Bob Dole. The latest today is that Bob Dole will now no longer seek to reverse the assault weapons ban. He's given up on that one. So there you are. And he weakly says, well, a bunch of those guns are now available anyway. So he will not attempt to reverse that ban. You know, by the time they're done, that is Bill Clinton stealing what few ideas Bob Dole has had, and Bob Dole compromising toward the left. There's going to be absolutely no difference whatsoever between those two guys except their age. That's going to be all that's left.
Yeah. Wild card line, you're on the air with the righteous, moral J.C.
I've only got one quick little comment, and it's for J.C. Actually, it's for you.
You've been drinking?
For your pleasure. Remember Liberal Charlie?
He's on a cellular phone, J.C.
Oh,
Give him a break.
Go ahead.
Do you remember Liberal Charlie?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of wonder if maybe J.C. isn't maybe his third cousin or something.
No, that one even I couldn't swallow.
Charlie
Liberal. I know.
That name's familiar.
It's from years ago. No.
Anyway, have a good night.
No, they had a similar wine. That's about all.
I remember him. He was the voice of Soviet propaganda on your show.
East of the
were
Rock.
in collusion with him.
I was in collusion. East of the Rock.